wanted to send a picture of a chart, but then I was like, well, let me see if I can record this real quick, right? So I looked at the news and we have odd CPI news tonight, okay? That's consumer price index. All these work the same, whether it's the dollar, odd, GBP, or whatever. So this is going to be pretty volatile for our odd pairs, okay? So we're going to do our top-down analysis, all right? And I see that we have a gap here on this monthly, so I am going to mark that up. All right, and then if you don't know, my fair value gap lines are purple, my CRT is black. All right, so now we're going to go down to the weekly. We're going to mark our weekly CRT range. CRT stands for candle range theory. All right, it's just trading last week's candle. All right, so I'm going to mark last week's high. I'm going to mark last week's low, and then 50% of last week's range. All right, so CRT is basically just the power of three, right? It's run a liquidity, what is it? Manipulation, accumulation, distribution, right? So it's just run a liquidity, break a structure, and then price going back to your structure, and then taking it back to 50%. So this was our run on liquidity. Price ran last week's high, okay? Now I'm just going to come down to the daily. I want to see if I see any trend lines that I want to mark up. I do see a trend line here, but it's not relevant. It's not close to price, okay? I don't see any gaps. I'm going to come down to the 4 hour. Okay, now here on our 4 hour, price ran our liquidity, right? It ran that last high. It left us with a evening star, okay? That's this bullish candle, this doji, and this bearish candle. So price came out of the zone. Now price is coming back into the zone. We have a fair value gap right here on the hour. Normally you want to wait on a break of structure, but with this gap right here, it's going to be good enough for me. Let's see. Okay, so we do have a minor time frame break of structure, right? This was our last high, and this was our pullback here. Okay, so this was our break of structure, and price did give you a gap. So technically we had our break of structure, and then we have another gap here. But this is the area, my area of interest, this hourly gap right here. Okay, so with there being news, I'm not sure if we're going to get a retest, but ideally we want a break and a retest. You're going to go down to the lower time frame and look for that retest, and then we're going to take it down to 50% of last week's candle. Okay, so I'll say come down here to the 5 minute. Then you want to wait for price to get underneath this last structure point here, our last minor structure point, and then retest this gap. Okay, that's that purple line right there. With news, you may get an impulsive candle. If you get an impulsive candle, let price come back into that impulsive candle like this. So right here, you see we got an impulsive candle, and then price came back into it. Let price come back into it before you get in. Otherwise, you'll be in some drawdown. Or if you want, you know, you can just get in, okay? Because with news, it could just run, but it's up to you. Stop loss will be at the top of this candle right here, because this is the candle that created our gap. All right, so that's what we're going to be looking for on GBP odd. And then we are looking for sales on EU. Okay, EU gave us our perfect fair value gap structure, right? The 3 candles with the gap in the middle. So we're waiting for price to come back to this gap. right? EU has already ran last week's high, okay? And TP is at 50% of last week's candle, which it doesn't look like I have marked up. All right, TP here. Now, there is another gap down here, and also, what is this, last week's opening gap? The only way that I would say to try to trade price down to here is if price comes underneath our 50%, and we just so happen to have a gap there, and of course, break and retest, right? But for now, from here to here, this is a good 73 pips. That's good profit. All right, and then we're looking the same on GU, okay? Price came outside of our CRT range. It broke our structure, broke structure over here, and then this was our last high, right? We got a minor structure break over here, okay? So now we're just waiting on these pullbacks. So entry here, 50% of this fair value gap. We got this 3 candle range, and prices already making lower lows, lower highs, lower lows. This should be our lower high, and then take it down to 50%. Okay, so that's GU, EU, and GBP odd. Okay. All right, guys. Hope this video helps. Hopefully, you guys can catch some pips. Have a good day.